Hello and welcome to the 2017 Eastern Women's Sprints at Lake Quinsigamon, Worcester, Massachusetts. We've got the third Varsity 8 going off today at 8 a.m. We have Harvard, or Radcliffe in lane 1, Dartmouth in lane 2, Yukon in lane 3, Bucknell in lane 4, and Buffalo in lane 5. This is the third Varsity 8, 3 to the final. Boats are just now getting to their stake boats. A small wind at the first 500. Very small ripple across all lanes. We've got 4 minutes to the start. Bow seats are now just taking their strokes to get pointed down the course. And there's 2 minutes to the start. All crews appear to be in a line. And again, we have Radcliffe in lane 1, Dartmouth in lane 2, Yukon in lane 3, Bucknell in lane 4, and Buffalo in lane 5 for the third Varsity 8. The third Varsity 8 Heat 1 final is about to go off. Attention. And they're off. All crews, Peter, we're going off smoothly. Right now, it's too hard to declare a leader just yet. Just in their building strokes. The Radcliffe crew on the outside lane is looking very strong right now. We have Dartmouth right with them. All crews are building right into it as they're going through the 100 meters. Right now, Radcliffe is a few seats up on Dartmouth. Dartmouth appears to be a few seats up on Yukon. And Yukon and Bucknell appear to be very, very close. Buffalo's fallen back just a little bit right now as we're approaching the 500-meter mark. All crews are settling into their rhythm. The Radcliffe crew has his very strong stroke right now. Dartmouth right there with them. Bucknell and Buffalo, Bucknell and Yukon are going bow ball to bow ball as we're approaching the 500-meter mark. And as crews are approaching the 500-meter mark, it looks like we have Radcliffe, Dartmouth, Yukon, Bucknell, and Buffalo crossing the 500 now.
Bucknell looking to make a move, just starting to overtake Connecticut and trailing Buffalo. Radcliffe, though, are our clear leader here as we move into about 600 meters down. Dartmouth doing a nice job hanging on to them with just about a couple seats behind them, maybe 2-3 seats. It's a pretty tight pack here. This is the women's third varsity 8, heat 1. It is Radcliffe, it's Dartmouth, it's Bucknell, Connecticut, and about a length open water behind the field, Buffalo. Right now, all crews moving through the second 500, looking toward the 1,000-meter mark. Looks like Radcliffe, though, in this heat now answering Dartmouth. They definitely just took some kind of a move because they've started to push out, gaining back about a seat or two, now with a half a length lead over Dartmouth, who now sits in second place. And it's Radcliffe leading, Dartmouth second, Bucknell third, Connecticut fourth, followed by Buffalo. Right now, Radcliffe starting to open up the field a little bit more as they look towards the 1,000-meter mark. They are definitely walking now on Dartmouth, who solidified their spot in second place. So Radcliffe, Dartmouth, the leaders in this third varsity 8 heat 1, first race of the day. Beautiful morning out here. And it's Radcliffe now almost into one boat's length lead over second place Dartmouth. It's Radcliffe now walking through the 1,000 into the second half of this race and into the third 500. Radcliffe, Dartmouth, but look at Bucknell, look at Connecticut. I'd say Connecticut answering Bucknell a little bit, trying to solidify their place in third. Bucknell, though, hanging on to that third place position with about a half a length lead over fourth place Connecticut. In the third 500, it's Radcliffe now up one length decidedly over second place Dartmouth. It's Bucknell and Connecticut, but look at what Connecticut's done in the third 500, answering Bucknell a little bit through the 1,000-meter mark. Bucknell still in a solid third position, but Connecticut doing everything they can to pull their crew even. Radcliffe now in first place of this heat, breaking into open water, pushing the rest of the field back. That Coxon's crew can now press the rest of the field back as they look towards the last 500. It's Radcliffe with an open water lead over second place Dartmouth. And it is still Bucknell now by a half a length over Connecticut. Looks like Bucknell's taken some kind of a move because they've taken a couple seats back from Connecticut. Now 2 to 3 lengths open water behind the pack is Buffalo. Radcliffe cruising. They are not looking back as we look towards the last 500 meters of the third varsity 8 heat 1, first race of the day. It is Radcliffe open water lead, second place Dartmouth, third place Bucknell by almost a length now over Yukon. Yukon sitting in fourth, and Buffalo in this heat sitting fifth. Radcliffe about 3, 4, 5 strokes away from the last 500, open water lead over second place Dartmouth. It is Bucknell in third. Can Connecticut come back? Radcliffe into the last 5. And we'll hand it over to you, Eric, for the last 500.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Finish.
Bob, generally speaking, it's easier two hands.
And don't put it up and down now.
Just unravel it.
No, it's unraveled as much as it's going to go, yeah. It's a little TLC. Yeah, just a little help. All right. Yep. Here they come. All right. Bucknell is lane 4 making the push. Everybody.
And coming into the last 250, it looks like Radcliffe about a length ahead of Dartmouth, maybe a little bit more. Radcliffe looks very relaxed here. They will move on to the grand final later this afternoon. Dartmouth in second. And I believe that's Bucknell out in third, followed by Yukon and Buffalo in fifth. And at the line, it's Radcliffe by about a half a length over Dartmouth. Here's Dartmouth now in second. And taking the third spot in the grand final this afternoon, it looks like that is Bucknell, followed by Yukon. The Huskies of Yukon will go to the petite final, along with Here Come Buffalo in fifth. As I said, the top three from that first heat there will go on to the grand final later at 2:35 p.m. And the next two crews will be in the petite final at 2:25 p.m. Take back up to the start for the next heat, Heat 2 of the third Varsity 8.
And welcome to the Eastern Sprints, the 2017 third Varsity 8 petite or second heat. We have 3 boats to the final, 2 to the petite. In lane 1, we have Northeastern. Lane 2, Boston College. Lane 3, Drexel. And lane 4, Rutgers. This is the third Varsity 8, 3 to the final and 2 to the petite. Boats are just getting to their stake boats and lining up right down the course. The wind has picked up just a small bit, but conditions are still great. All crews appear to be aligned. Final strokes from the bow seat and 2 seat. Again, we have lane 1, Northeastern, lane 2, Boston College, lane 3, Drexel, and lane 4, Rutgers. And they're off. All crews have gone off cleanly right now. They're in their high strokes. Coming off, they're building to their higher strokes, and then they'll be settling into their pace. Beautiful catches right now. All boats appear to be even. First strokes in the race are pretty hard to tell. As they come by, we'll see if we have any separation. Rutgers appears to be pulling out a little bit. As well as Northeastern on the outside. All boats are now settling into their pace. Northeastern has a very nice long stroke going on right now, as well as BC, Drexel, and Rutgers. Coming by the enclosure, Northeastern has a few seats up on BC. BC has a few seats up on Drexel. And right now, it looks like Drexel and Rutgers are bow ball to bow ball. BC only has a few seats on both those crews, and Northeastern appears to have 2 or 3 seats right off the start. And now as they settle, they're heading to the 500-meter mark.
Down a very exciting heat here. We have Northeastern, Boston College, Drexel, and Rutgers, with the Huskies out decidedly leading this heat over Boston College and Drexel, but pretty tight, I'd say, between BC, Drexel, and Rutgers, with the Huskies just breaking into open water over Boston College. It is Northeastern, it's BC, Drexel, followed by Rutgers. Again, pretty tight pack between Boston College, Drexel, and Rutgers. The Huskies now 1 length or so over BC. BC seems to be making a little bit of a surge here as they look to put Drexel away. Drexel now answering them. Beautiful, tight racing here. Right now, though, it is still the Huskies up about 1 length, but they'll want to be careful and look behind them as Boston College and Drexel battle here for second to make sure they don't increase with too much speed. It is Northeastern. It's now Drexel over Boston College, but look out because Rutgers is staying in the mix. Right now, though, Huskies, it's Drexel, Boston College, followed by Rutgers. The Huskies long and strong here, moving through this second 500-meter stretch. Northeastern now starting to answer here in the second 5 in the middle 1,000, striding into their race cadence. It is Northeastern over Drexel. Rutgers keeping their bow ball in the mix. Boston College now a half a length behind Drexel. But the Huskies staying up 1 length. Drexel definitely doing work in the middle 1,000 here. It's Northeastern, though, moving through now their third 500. Drexel's up to something. They are making sure that they advance to this final in the women's third varsity 8 heat 2. It is Northeastern. Less than a length now, I'd say. Drexel overlapping for sure with the Huskies. Northeastern's Coxon sitting on about Drexel's bow ball. And look out for third here. Boston College and Rutgers really battling for it. It is top 3 to advance. Will it be Rutgers? Will it be BC? We don't yet know in the third 500. But man, it's looking like it's going to be Northeastern and Drexel for sure. There's still time. About 750 meters to go. If you're in the Northeastern shell, long and strong, but still maybe thinking about fully executing that race plan in this heat, it's Northeastern about 3/4 of a length, maybe a little bit less over Drexel. Boston College sitting in third. Rutgers really hanging on to it, though. It's definitely going to be a fight to the end between BC and Rutgers, potentially Drexel too. Northeastern, though, maintaining their position. Little less than a length ahead. Drexel is making a move. They are going all out to make sure that they advance to this final. It is Northeastern, it is Drexel, it is Boston College over Rutgers by about 2 seats. Look at BC and Rutgers now here, really fighting for it in this exciting third varsity 8 heat 2. Drexel is not giving in. Man, they are moving through the third 5. All of these crews stepping into the last 500. It's Northeastern, Drexel, BC by a seat, maybe a seat or 2. Rutgers starting their sprint early. I'd say Rutgers over BC, maybe. Eric, over to you for the last 5.
And with 300 meters to go, it looks like the Huskies of Northeastern and Drexel out there in lane 4 are. The Huskies appear to have a bit of a lead here coming in to the last 35 strokes of the race. Tough to tell from this angle. Looks like about half a length on Drexel. Drexel about a length over both Boston College and Rutgers. So they come into the red buoys marking the last 250 meters of this race. Top three will go on to the grand final and join Radcliffe, Bucknell, and Dartmouth later this afternoon. And yes, the Huskies still appear about a half a length up over Dartmouth, or I'm sorry, Drexel.
Watch is clear, eyes on the line.
And in the final strokes, the Huskies will stride out to first place in the second heat of the third varsity 8, followed closely by Drexel. And in the fight for the last spot in the grand final, we're going to have to check in. That's close there between Boston College and Rutgers for the final spot in the grand final. Gonna have to confirm with the results. I couldn't tell from here.
Time 6.56. 6 minutes 56 seconds. Eric, we're going to have to switch. The next race is about to start.
And we have the race 3, the varsity 4A, heat 1, with Radcliffe in lane 1, Bucknell in lane 2, Drexel in lane 3, MIT in lane 4, and Buffalo in lane 5. 2 to the final and 2 to the petite for the varsity 4A. Crews are now getting alignment. And they're off. Radcliffe, Bucknell, Drexel, MIT, and Buffalo, the varsity 4A, heat 1. All crews are taking their high strokes right now. Very high stroke rate from Drexel right now. Moving themselves ahead. The wind has picked up just a little bit. All boats are pretty close at this point. Radcliffe on the outside in lane 1 look like they're pulling ahead just a little bit, as well as Drexel in lane 3. And we'll get a better call once they come closer to the enclosure and the angle goes away. Right now, though, it looks like Radcliffe has taken a few seats on Bucknell, Drexel, MIT, and Buffalo. Coming past the enclosure, Radcliffe is out in front. Drexel is up on Bucknell. And Bucknell is up on both MIT and Buffalo. MIT and Buffalo right now, it looks like they are battling it out. MIT may have a seat right now on Buffalo. All crews have lengthened to their standard pace right now, their base pace. And Radcliffe will be crossing the 500 first, with Drexel in second right now, Bucknell in third, and between MIT and Buffalo, it's still bow ball to bow ball.
Through the 500 down, it is Radcliffe, early leader here in the Varsity 4 Heat 1. Varsity 4A, it is Radcliffe, followed by Drexel, then Bucknell, and behind them, MIT and Buffalo. Pretty close here. Looks to be Buffalo just pressing out a little bit over MIT, but the rest of the field up a few lengths, and it's Radcliffe, Drexel, and Bucknell in third. 3 heats for this Varsity 4A, which means it's top 2 to advance. Right now, that would be Radcliffe and Drexel, but there's still time for Bucknell. Buffalo now moving ahead over MIT, which means it's Radcliffe in first, Drexel second, Bucknell third, Buffalo fourth, and MIT fifth in this first heat of the women's Varsity 4A. Of course, Radcliffe, the defending champion here. Drexel doing nice work to make sure they solidify that second place spot right now. Again, 3 heats, top 2 to advance. If the race were to end right now, it would be Radcliffe and Drexel. But these guys only about 800 or so, 900 meters in. Radcliffe looking long and strong, the defending champion of this event. It is Radcliffe in first, Drexel in second. Now about 2, maybe 3 lengths behind is Bucknell in third, with Buffalo in fourth and MIT in fifth. Still overlap between those 2 trailing crews. Radcliffe, though, cruising through their base cadence, middle 1,000 into the third 500. It's Radcliffe first, it's Drexel second. It's looking like these 2 will be our 2 crews that advance to the final, with Bucknell in third. It's Radcliffe long and strong, Drexel long and strong as well. These crews swinging their way through the third 500. Radcliffe, early leader in this race, getting out, swinging long and strong, now looking towards the last 500 meters. With Drexel possibly about a length or so behind them. And then now maybe 4 or so lengths, 3 to 4 lengths behind is Bucknell in third. All of these crews now looking towards their last 500. If I'm in the Radcliffe or Drexel boat, maybe thinking about not sprinting, at least not at a full sprint sequence. A nice long swing row through, looking toward the final in the afternoon. Drexel a little bit higher than Radcliffe, but both of these crews at that nice base cadence. They'll be the first to walk into the last 500. First Radcliffe, second Drexel. And Bucknell in a solid third place position. Looks to be Radcliffe and Drexel, decidedly our 2 crews headed to the grand final for the Varsity 4A this afternoon. They're now in their last 5. Here comes Bucknell through 5 to go, followed by Buffalo and MIT. Eric will hand it over to you for the last 500.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch.
tread with a trailer.
And coming into the last 250, it looks like Radcliffe comfortably out ahead of the field here, followed by Drexel out there in lane 3. And then there's quite a bit of open water there back to the next 3 boats. It's top 3 to final here. Radcliffe in the last 200 meters looks very relaxed. Knowing that the work has been done, they will be moving on to the grand final later this afternoon. Drexel there in second, and back in third looks like Bucknell. Few lengths back there to Bucknell between Drexel and them, but Radcliffe will move on. Here at the finish line, Radcliffe by about a length over Drexel. Coming into view shortly is the Bison of Bucknell. Moving on later this afternoon to the petite final will be Buffalo in 4th, followed by MIT out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There's Buffalo by about just a little bit of overlap with MIT in the 4th and 5th spots. So that's it for the first heat of the Varsity 4. We'll be taking you back up shortly to the second heat here of the first Varsity 4 here at the Women's Eastern Sprints Regatta in Worcester, Massachusetts.
And welcome back to the 2017 Eastern Women's Sprints. Race 4. The Varsity 4. We have 2 going to the final and 2 going to the petites. We have Columbia in lane 1, Boston College in lane 2, Boston University in lane 3, and Holy Cross in lane 4. This is the Varsity 4A, Race 4, Heat 2. Crews are just getting alignment now. Stroke seats are bow seats are just tapping it up, getting pointed down the course. The wind hasn't picked up too much, and they are off. It's Columbia, Boston College, Boston University, and Holy Cross. Crews are now taking their high strokes. Very high stroke rate from Boston College and BC. These 2 duking it out on the Charles now have the chance to take it to Worcester. Again, we have Columbia in lane 1, Boston College in lane 2, Boston University in lane 3, and Holy Cross in lane 4. All crews have gone off strong, and they're now getting into their settling strokes. As they come by the enclosure, we'll get a better view on who's out in front. Columbia looks like they've taken a few seats, are in first place at the moment. Boston College not too far behind, and Boston University a few seats behind Boston College. Holy Cross is still there and with contact with Boston University. Columbia has almost 4 seats over Boston College. Boston College has pretty much a length right now on Boston University, and behind them, another length of open back is Holy Cross. Columbia will be crossing the 500 first, followed by Boston College and Boston University, with Holy Cross taking up the rear.
Followed by Boston University and Holy Cross. The Lions leading this race over Boston College by about 1 length. BU looking to stay in the mix as well, as of course it's only top 2 to advance to the grand final this afternoon. It's Columbia over BC by just about a length, maybe a little bit of overlap over there. But the Lions leading this race. We've seen some good work out of this 4 over the course of the spring. And it's Columbia over Boston College. Now all of these crews well into the second 500 and looking towards the 1,000. Looks like the Lions taking some kind of a move, maybe starting to push Boston College further back. Cracking just into an open water lead now. It is Columbia over Boston College. Yes, Columbia is decidedly moving over Boston College. Mid-second 5, looking toward the 1,000-meter mark. Columbia's broken into an open water lead over Boston College in second and Boston University in third. Top 2 crews advancing to this grand final, and right now it's looking like Columbia and Boston College for this heat. Columbia really opening up their margin here in the middle of the second 500. They're now about 1/4's length open water over second place Boston College. They will be the first to cross into the third 500. And it's Columbia now moving into the third 5. Boston College in second. BU in third. Boston University about a 4's length and a half maybe behind second place BC. Right now, it is Columbia advancing to the grand final, followed by Boston College, and here comes Boston University into the third 500 as well. And it's Columbia in the third 5. Now at least 1/4's length open water lead over BC, maybe a little bit more. It is the Lions charging now in the last 750 as they look towards the last 500. Columbia really gaining power as we saw there in the second 500 and now the third 500. Some nice work in the middle 1,000 from this crew. It is Columbia looks to be advancing to the grand final as our winner of this heat, though there's still time at about 700 so meters to go, 650 to go. It's the Lions over Boston College in second. Looks like BU has maybe taken up the rate, though. They sense the urgency with about 700 meters to go and only top 2 advancing to the grand final. Columbia long and strong as they look towards the last 5. Boston College, a solid second. BU has definitely kicked it up a notch. We see them starting to take back maybe a few meters, but they've got some groundwork to make up if they want to be the crew to advance with Columbia to the grand final. Columbia now looking at about 10 or 12 strokes before they hit the last 500. Pretty big margins between first, second, and third, and a little bit of a tailwind, maybe cross tail, as we look towards the last 600 meters or so, wind slightly picking up. Columbia all day at their base cadence here. They're in the last 5. Boston College in second, stepping in. It is BU in decidedly third with about 1/4's length between them for second. And Holy Cross taking fourth with about 550 meters to go for Holy Cross. Over to you, Eric.
Looks like it may be Boston College there in second. Tough to tell from here. But Columbia definitely a few lengths out on the field here coming into the last 250. It's 2 to move on to the final here. Columbia looking very comfortable, very relaxed here as they've got about 3, 4, or maybe even 5 lengths of open water on the field here. Back there in second, the Eagles of Boston College, followed by Boston University, and back in fourth, Holy Cross. And coming into the last 15 strokes, looks like Columbia will take the top spot. And in less disaster, Boston College will join them in the grand final this afternoon. And across the line now, it looks like about a 30, Columbia. Followed by the Eagles of Boston College. And a couple lengths back on them, the Terriers of BU, who will go on this afternoon to the Petite Final. And back in fourth, we have Holy Cross. Coming into about the last 15 strokes here. They will also move on to the Petite Final this afternoon in the Varsity Fours. Holy Cross, 50 meters to go. And coming over the line now. So, in the second heat of the Varsity Fours, we have Columbia and Boston College moving on to the grand final this afternoon at 3 p.m., 3 o'clock p.m., the grand final of the Varsity Fours. Beautiful day here in Worcester, Massachusetts. Sunny, a little bit of clouds, a little bit of a cross tailwind coming off the port side of these crews. Shortly, we'll be taking you back up to the start for the third heat of the Varsity Fours. That race will be contested between Northeastern, Dartmouth, UConn, and Rutgers.
Good. All right, and welcome back to Race 5, the Varsity 4A, Heat 3, the final race for the Varsity 4A. In Lane 1, we have Northeastern, Lane 2, Dartmouth, Lane 3, UConn, and Lane 4, Rutgers. We have a slight tailwind across the course right now, and boats are now getting alignment. We're queuing up. And they're off. All crews are building into their high strokes at the moment. Northeastern, Dartmouth, UConn, and Rutgers going off for the third heat of the Varsity 4A. A fast start from Dartmouth. Really bringing the stroke rate up. All crews bringing the stroke rate up. A little bit of hang up right now from the Rutgers crew, but it looks like they're gaining it back. As they're coming up, Northeastern looks like they're leading on the outside. A little too close to call right now. As the crews settle into their base pace and come by the enclosure, we'll get a better idea of where they're stacking up. Northeastern has a few seats over Dartmouth at the moment. Dartmouth and UConn are going bow ball to bow ball, with Rutgers still in it, only a few seats down on UConn at the moment. Northeastern appears to have 2 seats, and Dartmouth Dartmouth and Yukon are trading bow ball to bow ball. It's anyone's race, though. All crews are just now approaching the 500-meter mark, lengthening their strokes. Very long strokes from Yukon right now. And Northeastern will cross first, followed by Dartmouth, Yukon, and Rutgers.
And coming through the 500, it's Northeastern, Connecticut, and Dartmouth really battling for second with Rutgers right behind them. Man, this is tight racing coming through the 500, but it's Northeastern. It's now Connecticut over Dartmouth. It's Dartmouth over Connecticut. These guys are battling for second here. And again, as we know, it is only top two to advance. Look at Northeastern, though, starting to press out in their base cadence and open up a little bit over the rest of the field. Northeastern is walking on second place. Dartmouth, they are almost bow to stern. Dartmouth's bow ball sitting on Northeastern's stern deck. Here go the Huskies, though, starting to press away from the rest of the field. It is Northeastern bow to stern over Dartmouth in second, Yukon in third, and Rutgers in fourth. The Huskies now barely breaking into open water. Can they do it in these next few strokes? And yes, it looks like they can. The Huskies now have broken into open water over Dartmouth. Really long, strong base cadence from this crew. It is Northeastern over Dartmouth. It's Dartmouth over Yukon with fourth place Rutgers. The Huskies open water lead over Dartmouth and over the rest of the field. Pressing now through the second 500 and thinking about the 1,000-meter mark. It's Northeastern, Dartmouth, Connecticut, Rutgers, and only two of these crews are going to the final. It's looking like Northeastern right now as they move through the second 500 in this slight tail crosswind to step into the third 5. It's Northeastern about a length and a half or so open water now over Dartmouth, with Yukon behind Dartmouth. Right now, the top two crews in this heat are Northeastern and Dartmouth. We see Rutgers in fourth, trying to make a press back into Connecticut. Connecticut sitting in third, but as we know, it's top two to advance. Little bit of a tailwind here. Northeastern coming through strong in the third 500. It's Northeastern still opening up that margin, really solidifying their first place position in this heat. They're looking to go to the grand final this afternoon, and right now it's looking like Dartmouth is going to go with them. But don't write off Connecticut, because they're keeping their bow to stern right now, right glued to Dartmouth's stern deck. These crews moving nicely through the third 500. As we saw in the first 5, it was a really tight pack, but now it's lengthened out quite a bit more. It's Northeastern open water lead, at least one length open over Dartmouth in the third 500, moving their bow ball towards the 500 to go. Northeastern, Dartmouth in second, Yukon decidedly now in third. Rutgers doing nice work, though, keeping their bow ball right on Yukon's stern deck. Those two battling a bit for the third and fourth positions. But the Huskies are long and strong at their base cadence. All they're thinking about is getting to the line and this afternoon. It's the Huskies over Dartmouth. Dartmouth sitting in that second place position. Yukon not too far off Dartmouth, though. Not quite bow to stern, some open water for sure there, but Yukon doing their best work to keep that bow ball close as they can to Dartmouth's stern. Huskies now are through the 500 to go. Here comes Dartmouth in second, Yukon in third, but don't count out Rutgers' sprint because they're starting to move on Yukon. Over to you, Eric.
About 400 meters to go here. Northeastern still looking long and strong coming into the last 300. Out ahead of Dartmouth. Battle for third and fourth going on between Rutgers and Connecticut, with Rutgers moving back a little bit into that lead we saw earlier. And here comes Northeastern, about a length and a half over Dartmouth, maybe even opening up a little bit more as we come into 200 meters to go. But as it looks now, it will be Northeastern and Dartmouth taking the final two spots in this afternoon's grand final. And with 5 strokes to go, it is Northeastern, about 2 to 3 lengths over Dartmouth. We do have UConn maybe moving back in a bit on Dartmouth, but not enough. With about 3 strokes to go, it's Dartmouth in that final spot in the grand final this afternoon. And UConn about half a length over Rutgers. So the grand final for this afternoon is set, as is the petite final. The grand final will be at 3 p.m. this afternoon for the varsity fours. The petite final just before that at 2:50 p.m. Following this race, we'll have the 3 heats of the second varsity 8. We'll get going in a couple minutes there. That first heat will be between Radcliffe, Bucknell, Drexel, Holy Cross, and Buffalo.
And we have 2 minutes to race 6, the second varsity 8. In lane 1, we have Radcliffe. Lane 2, we have Bucknell. Lane 3, Drexel. Lane 4, Holy Cross, and Lane 5, Buffalo. The second varsity 8 ready to go off in just 2 minutes. In this race, we have 2 to the final and 2 go to the petite. Conditions have shifted to a slight cross tailwind at the moment. There's a few strokes from the Buffalo bow seat, getting alignment for the course, as well as Radcliffe. All crews are in their stake boats. A few more taps from the Drexel bow seat. As well as the Radcliffe bow seat. All crews are aligned. And here's the start. All crews are off. Harvard, Bucknell, Drexel, Holy Cross, and Buffalo. Really going into their high strokes right now. They've built up the momentum, and now they're going to keep it up for a few more until they settle to their base pace. Very direct blade work right now from all crews. Going stroke for stroke for this 250 meters. And as the crews come around, Radcliffe on the outside on lane 1 look like they have a few seats right now. Bucknell right there with them, and Drexel as well. Holy Cross and Buffalo look to be a few seats down on Drexel. And as they come by the enclosure, Radcliffe with about 7 seats on Bucknell. Drexel about 8 seats down on Bucknell right now. Holy Cross another 7 seats down on Drexel. And Buffalo 7 seats down on Holy Cross at the moment. Radcliffe will cross first, followed by Bucknell, Drexel, Holy Cross, and Buffalo. And right there, Radcliffe crossed the 500.
And coming through the line, a very exciting race here. This is the second Varsity 8 Heat 1, and it's Radcliffe in first. They are 1 length ahead of Bucknell. Drexel really pushing in here as well. Again, with 3 heats of this second Varsity 8, it's only top 2 to advance, and we can see here that Drexel is well aware of that. Right now, though, Radcliffe are early leaders, sitting about 1 length up on Bucknell. Kudos to Bucknell. They're keeping their bow ball right in this race, though, right on Radcliffe's deck, though. Look out, Bucknell. Here comes Drexel. I'd say Drexel and Bucknell for second pretty tight, but it is Bucknell over Drexel by about 2 or so seats. Radcliffe getting work done in the second 5 to solidify their lead and make sure that they're in this grand final as the defending champion this afternoon. It's now an open water lead. Radcliffe over Bucknell. Drexel in third, but man, Drexel really doing work in this second 5 to challenge Bucknell for the second place position. It is Radcliffe in first, it's Bucknell in second, it's Drexel tight in third, followed by Holy Cross and Buffalo. But let's look at Bucknell and Drexel, because this is the fight right now for the final. It's Bucknell, it's Drexel. Stroke by stroke, these two crews are battling. Advantage to Bucknell by 1 seat right now. Drexel just kicked it up a notch. I'd say Drexel has taken it up maybe about a beat or so in the middle of this race right now as these crews come into the second 1,000. Radcliffe long and strong. They're looking to get out of here and just hit cruise control for the second 1,000. It's Bucknell, it's Drexel. Is it Bucknell over Drexel? I'd say Drexel over Bucknell by about a seat or 2, which means it's Radcliffe leading, it's Drexel in second, it's Bucknell in third, Holy Cross in fourth, and then Buffalo. The exciting bit right now, of course, race for second place. Is it Bucknell? Is it Drexel? Right now it's Drexel. Middle of the third 500 as all of these crews look toward the last 5. Drexel has taken that second place position from Bucknell, but there is still time. This race is not over. And if I'm coxing the Bucknell or the Drexel boat, I'm thinking about sprinting early, whichever position I'm in, to solidify that lead. This heat may as well be treated as your grand final if you're trying to get into that final into the afternoon, right? So both of these crews really at each other's throat, but it's Drexel over Bucknell. I see the Radcliffe coxswain looking back, just making sure she's good. She's got a little bit less than a length open water, I'd say. In second place, Drexel. Third place, Bucknell, with about 3 seats or so in between them. These crews looking towards the last 500 meters. Radcliffe first, Drexel second, Bucknell third. Drexel moving as we look towards the last 550 meters of this race. Drexel now 3/4 of a length advantage over Bucknell, which means it's Radcliffe to the grand final. Is it Drexel? Is it Bucknell? Right now it's looking like Drexel, but there's still time for Bucknell. Then we've got Holy Cross in fourth, Buffalo in fifth. Battle back here between these two crews, but it's Holy Cross half a length over Buffalo. Radcliffe leading, Drexel second, Bucknell third, Holy Cross fourth, Buffalo fifth. Over to you, Eric, for the last 500.
And coming into the last 400, Radcliffe keeps that lead they've had. They're looking comfortable out there in first. Drexel battling ahead of Bucknell. The Dragons of Drexel just breathed fire in that third 500. They took a couple seats on Bucknell in that battle for that second spot. It's 2 to the final. Radcliffe striding out in first. Let's see what Drexel and Bucknell can do in the last 250 here. Red buoys, it's time to go. It's tough to tell here. Looks like Drexel still maintaining that 2 or 3 seat lead. May have even moved out even more. From this angle, they may have 5, 6 seats. They want that spot, and they are moving even further out on the bison of Bucknell.
Here we go.
There's Drexel. And out ahead, Radcliffe by a couple lengths here will take that first spot in the grand final this afternoon of the second Varsity 8. And Drexel in the last 500 took at least a length over Bucknell, moving out to open water. We saw that race between them the whole way, neck and neck down the course. And when it came to 500 meters to go, I guess Drexel just opened up the throttle and took that length and walked in to the second spot of the grand final this afternoon. They'll be joining Radcliffe. We'll be getting you shortly to the second and third heats of the morning for the 2V here to see who takes spots 3 through 6 in the grand final. But Radcliffe in first, Drexel in second. And going to the petite final this afternoon, we have Holy Cross, Buffalo, and Bucknell. Take you back up to the start here for the start of the second heat of the second Varsity 8. That will be contested between the Huskies of Northeastern, the Eagles of Boston College, the Terriers of BU, and another Husky in the race, the Huskies of UConn.
Welcome to race 10 of the Eastern Women's Sprints, or race 7 of the Eastern Women's Sprints. We have Northeastern, Boston College, Boston University, and UConn. We have the top 2 going to the final, and the next 2 going to the petites. It's 2 minutes to the start, with Northeastern in lane 1, Boston College in lane 2, Boston University in lane 3, and UConn in lane 4. Heat 2 of the second Varsity 8. We have Boston University's Bowsy taking a few strokes just to get them aligned and pointed straight down the course. And a few from Northeastern as well. A few more strokes from that Boston University bow seat. And now a few from Boston College. This wind appears to be pushing them just a little bit. It looks like all crews are aligned. And they're off. It's Northeastern, Boston College, Boston University, and UConn. The second Varsity 8. Top 2 to the final, and next 2 to the petites. All crews have gone off strong. Boston College, very direct blade work right now. Burying the hatchet and pushing off. Very strong start from all crews. And as they're coming off their high strokes, they're now settling to their base pace. Lengthening with that swing and swinging right with that tailwind. Coming by the enclosure, it's Northeastern by 4 seats. Behind them, we have Boston College and BU right with Boston College. UConn is still just a few seats down on Boston University. All crews are lengthening out right now. And Northeastern by 3 seats over Boston College. Boston College and Boston University right there together, and UConn a few more seats back on Boston University as they approach 500 meters in.
And coming through the 500, it's Northeastern, it's BC, BU, followed by Connecticut. BU doing everything that they can here to solidify that second place position against BC. I'd say BU, BC pretty even with the Huskies up by about a length. Right now, this is the second heat of the second varsity 8. It is Northeastern leading this race, followed by Boston College, Boston University in third, and Connecticut in fourth. Right now, the Huskies doing work in the middle of the second 500 to push their bow ball out. It's Northeastern first. It's BU in second, BC in second, BU in third, followed by Connecticut. The Huskies now moving through the second 500. BC just about bow to stern on the Huskies. Boston College bow ball sitting on Northeastern's coxswain. BU doing everything they can here to stick right with Boston College in the middle of the second 500, with Connecticut close to all of these crews. But it's the Huskies now about one length over Boston College. I'd say BC start trying to take a little bit of a move here. BU trying to take a little bit of a move here. BU creeping their bow ball. I'd say in some strokes, BU advantage over BC for second. Man, it is a close race for second right now, but the Huskies maintaining their lead. Let's see how much they can open this up as all of these crews step into the third 500. It is Northeastern. Boston College has answered Boston University to solidify that second place, barely, just about a seat or two, and it's Northeastern, Boston College behind them about one length. BU about one seat behind third. Northeastern, though, leading this race here by one length decidedly over Boston College, who's sitting second. It is a fight for second and two to move on to the final. Right now, it's Northeastern. It's Boston College over BU by about one seat as we look into the middle of this race and the third 500. The Huskies have stayed one length ahead over BC. They're solidifying that position for first. It is a race for second place, folks, as Boston College, BU, and Connecticut staying in the thick of it as well. All of these crews racing towards the last 500 and racing to the line. The Huskies still sitting bow to stern. BC and Northeastern's margin, I'd say, has stayed pretty much the same since the last 500 or so meters, but it's Northeastern over BC. I'd say BC saying no to Boston University. They've taken back about a half a seat. Boston University doing everything they can to stick right with BC, but Boston College is on the move. Right now, Boston College about 2 seats up from Boston University for second, which means that the race were to end now, Northeastern and BC would advance to the grand final, but man, there is still time as we look towards the last 500. Northeastern, one length, about 3.8 or so seconds over Boston College. BC by about 2.5 seats over BU. Last 500 is going to get very interesting. Look out for Connecticut. All of these crews, I'd say time to sprint a little bit earlier maybe than expected. Northeastern, BC, BU, Connecticut. Eric, it's over to you. Damn, it's close.
Boston College and the Boston University separated just by about a seat, it looks like, with BC still holding on to that lead. These schools train on the same river. They're connected just down the street of Commonwealth Avenue, and right now they're battling for the second spot in this afternoon's grand final. Let's see what happens in the last 300. Northeastern comfortably out in first. BC may have moved out a little further to 2 or 3 seats on BU. And out there in fourth, we have UConn. As they come into a little better angle here, we'll get a better idea of that battle between Boston College and Boston University. We got the Huskies of Northeastern still striding out comfortably ahead. BC may have eaten a little bit into that lead there. It is tough to tell from this angle, but Northeastern definitely in front coming into the last 200 meters. BC out ahead of BU, And Yukon may have moved back into BU. Crews bunched up here, but Northeastern appears to have about a 3 or 4 seat lead as we come into the finish line here. Last 5 strokes. And it's Northeastern will move on to join Drexel along with BC. The Eagles of BC took a length in that last 500, followed by BU and Yukon, also putting in a strong second half of that race to eat back into Boston University. But this afternoon, so far, we have Northeastern, Boston College, Drexel, and Radcliffe in the grand final of the second Varsity 8. We'll go on to the last heat in a couple minutes here, get you started, see who can take spots 5 and 6 in this afternoon's final.
And welcome to race 8 of the Eastern Women's Sprint. It's the second Varsity 8 with Columbia in lane 1, Dartmouth in lane 2, Rutgers in lane 3, and MIT in lane 4. This is the second Varsity 8, Heat 3, with the top 2 going to the final, and then the next 2 boats going to the Petite. Crews are just getting alignment now and waiting for the start. Will be a bunch of racing this weekend for the Big Green. Dartmouth just raced Cornell this weekend as well, and on their way back, they decided to come on over and join the Eastern Women's Sprints for another day of racing. We have alignment. A few strokes from Rutgers, pointing themselves down the course. Few more strokes from Rutgers. The wind's starting to push them a little bit. And a few strokes from MIT. We have alignment. Here's the start. And they're off. We have Columbia, Dartmouth, Rutgers, and MIT. All crews are starting their high strokes right now. Very strong start from Columbia. And very strong start from Dartmouth as well. Rutgers and MIT are really getting their blades in at this point. And MIT stroke rate very high at the moment. They're really starting to push off, see if they can get ahead, and then hold on to their lead. Now all crews are lengthening out to their base pace strokes. Direct blades from all crews, pushing off this tailwind that's pushing them right down the course. And as they approach the closure, we have Columbia a few seats up right now on Dartmouth. Only a few on Dartmouth. Dartmouth and Columbia are right next to each other. A few seats more behind them is Rutgers and MIT duking it out, bow ball to bow ball, lengthening their strokes, getting to that first 500 meters. Very beautiful long strokes right now from all boats. Really pushing away in this tailwind, sending their boat off right through the 500-meter mark. And it's Columbia, Dartmouth, and Rutgers and MIT together.
And picking up 500 meters in, it is Dartmouth over Columbia. Just through the first 500, looks like Dartmouth gained some speed to edge out Columbia here. Dartmouth, Columbia, and then a battle between MIT and Rutgers, bow ball by bow ball, depending on the stroke, though it looks like Rutgers' slight advantage over MIT. Our two leaders here, though, are Dartmouth and Columbia, long and strong, looking to solidify those first two positions for the grand final this afternoon. This is the women's second varsity 8. It is heat 3, and Dartmouth is leading over Columbia by a half a length. Again, we saw really exciting racing in Heat 2 between Northeastern, BC, BU, and Connecticut. Right now, the field's a little bit different. We're looking at these top two leading crews, 2 to advance, and right now it's looking to be Dartmouth and Columbia comfortably if they can continue to hold off Rutgers and MIT. We see Dartmouth Coxon looking over to Columbia. She's now 3/4 of a length advantage over Columbia. These crews now well into their base cadence in the middle of the second 500. Dartmouth definitely on the move, though, as they're almost about 1 length ahead of Columbia. Little bit less than that. Dartmouth Coxon sitting on Columbia bow seat. Both of these crews, very solid advantage over Rutgers and MIT. Again, if I'm coxing either of those shells, I'm not too worried about exactly what position I'm in, though I'd like to be first. Right now, I'm thinking about conserving energy for the afternoon. Cruise control straight to the line. And it's Dartmouth now 1 length advantage over Columbia. Dartmouth Coxon sitting on Columbia bow ball. Looks like Dartmouth is looking to take an open water lead in the third 500. Some really strong racing from them in the second 500. And now in the middle of the third 5. Columbia is solid at their base cadence. Again, no real reason for Columbia to sprint or necessarily try to pass Dartmouth right now. All about solidifying those top two positions and their position in the grand final this afternoon. Dartmouth now has broken into an open water lead over Columbia. So it is Dartmouth, Columbia, it is Rutgers, and then MIT. Long and strong for these first two crews, Dartmouth and Columbia. Columbia taking a little bit of a push here in the middle of the second 5. Looks like they just took a few meters back from Dartmouth to start to creep their bow ball right back up on Dartmouth's stern deck. But really nice if you're in either of these two shells, you can see the rest of the field behind you and just thinking about pushing your bow ball out toward the last 500 and the line. And speaking of last 5, it'll be Dartmouth who gets there first in the next 2 to 3 strokes. Now, definitely open water lead, Dartmouth over Columbia. It's Dartmouth now in the last 500. Columbia's there in about 1 stroke. Those two crews looking to be our leaders to advance to the grand final. MIT has answered Rutgers. So MIT in 3rd, Rutgers in 4th. Over to you, Eric, for the last 5.
Well, you're both going into the grand final, as you heard, as long as nothing crazy happens in the last 300 meters. So they can really just stride out, find the rhythm. They don't have to show their cards here. They don't have to show their sprint. They don't have to show any of the other crews what they're capable of, what they can throw down in this afternoon's final. Back in the battle for 3rd and 4th, it appears the engineers of MIT are out about dead even with Rutgers there. Rutgers out in lane 3, MIT furthest away from us in lane 4. And here comes Dartmouth. Confident long stride. Pretty relaxed stroke right. They know it's They've got about a half a length to a length out on the lines of Columbia here, and they'll just glide into this afternoon's final in the 2V at 3:25 p.m. So in the last 5 strokes, Dartmouth out ahead of Columbia. Dartmouth crossing the line now, about a half a length of open water over Columbia. It appears that MIT has pulled ahead of Rutgers. About a half a length here in the last 3 strokes. MIT in 3rd and Rutgers in 4th. So the grand final for the second Varsity 8 is set for 3:25 this afternoon. It will be contested between Radcliffe, Drexel, Northeastern, Boston College, Dartmouth, and Columbia. That's this afternoon at 3:25. It will be preceded by the Petite final. Probably about 10 minutes before that. I'm not positive, but that would be about 3:15 p.m. And now we'll send you back up to the start for the start of the first heat of 3 of the Varsity 8.
And welcome back. Race 9, the Varsity 8 in the Eastern Women's Sprint. This is Heat 1. Top 2 boats go to the final. The next 2 go to the Petites. We have Radcliffe in lane 1, Boston University in lane 2, Boston College in lane 3, Holy Cross in lane 4, and Buffalo in lane 5. Boats are now queuing up, tapping it up with their bow seat, just getting aligned. It's a beautiful sunny day with a slight cross tailwind at the moment. Crews are just tapping it up with their bow seats so their boat can go straight down the course. And again, it's Radcliffe in lane 1, Boston University in lane 2, Boston College in lane 3, Holy Cross in lane 4, and Buffalo in lane 5. This is the Varsity 8, Heat 1. We have alignment. And they're off. Strong high strokes from these crews right now. They're cutting off the swing, pushing with the legs, and shortening the slide for the moment. Just getting that rate up, building, and trying to get their bow ball ahead. They're going to take the first few hundred meters just to build up the rate, and then they'll shift to their base pace. Very nice blade work from the BC boat right now. And they're now shifting to their lengthened strokes, their base strokes. Radcliffe, nice long stroke at the moment. BC just starting to settle into their base pace. Now all crews have settled into their base pace. Coming by the enclosure, Radcliffe is out in front, followed by Boston University, Boston College behind Boston University, Holy Cross and BU pretty much running even But right now our leader is Radcliffe, with a few seats over, probably 4 or 5 seats over Boston University. And Boston University has maybe 2 or 3 seats over Boston College. And Buffalo and Holy Cross, maybe another 3 or 4 seats down on them. And they're crossing the 500 right now.
And it is Radcliffe moving through the first 500, followed by Boston University, Boston College, and a battle between Buffalo and Holy Cross here for 4th and 5th. Right now, though, Radcliffe up about 1 length, a little bit less than that on BU. 3rd is Boston College. We saw a really, really spectacular battle between Boston University and Boston College in one of the earlier heats in the second Varsity 8. Let's see what their Varsity 8s get up to in the Heat 1 of the women's Varsity 8. It is Radcliffe about 1 length lead over second place Boston University. Some overlap between Boston College and BU, but Boston College is in 3rd by just about a length, maybe a little bit less. We see Boston University Coxon sitting on Boston College's bow seat. Radcliffe now in the second 500, opening up, just about hitting open water now with an advantage over Boston University in second. Boston College definitely taking some kind of a move here. They just took back at least 1 seat, maybe 2 seats, as we look towards the 1,000-meter mark. Boston College knows, BU knows that it's only the top 2 to advance. And the real race is right now. Radcliffe long and strong. Boston University not letting Radcliffe get too far away. BU's bow ball, bow deck, pressing into Radcliffe's stern deck. Look out, here comes Boston College. They just took back 2 seats from Boston University, which means that Boston College now only a half a length down from second place BU. We see Boston University's Coxon turning around. She sees that Boston College is coming. Right now, these crews are in the third 500, and it is a battle for second place. Radcliffe bow to stern to BU. We see that BU and Radcliffe, that margin has not changed by much. Boston College now sitting just about a half a length, maybe even less from BU. I'd say just about a half a length right now, almost on the nose. Can BC make up these 2 seconds to overtake Boston University for second place in the last 700 meters? It's Radcliffe in first. BC's going early. Brilliant move from that Coxon and crew, because they just took it up a notch and decided to start the sprint early. Can they hold on to this all the way through the line? BC's going early. Will BU answer them as we look towards the last 5 in just about 10 to 15 strokes? It is Radcliffe in first. It is Boston University by a seat in second. Boston College in third. Here we go for the last 500, though. It is a race for second. And it's on between BU and BC. Eric, we will hand it over to you for the last 500.
And with 500 meters to go, we see the Eagles of Boston College have taken flight. They are starting their sprint early, trying to get out ahead of BU. Radcliffe comfortably out in first, but again, another titanic battle between these 2 Boston schools, separated by Commonwealth Avenue in Boston. Here comes BC. They may have pulling even with BU. Coming into the last 275 meters, battling for that top 2 spots to get into this afternoon's final in the Varsity 8. Tough to tell from this angle, but BC is moving. They are moving into BU. They may have moved out ahead. Radcliffe, closest to us, maintains that lead comfortable, but BC, story of the day, they took that move with about 600 meters to go in early sprint, and we're going to see right here if it paid off or if BU was able to counter attack and take that lead back. As they come into the angle here, it looks like BU may have held them off. The Terriers fighting like dogs. The Terriers in the last 10 strokes. They will move on to this afternoon's final by only about 15 feet over the Eagles of Boston College. What a race that was. And back in 4th and 5th, we have Holy Cross and Buffalo. Holy Cross about 6 seats up over Buffalo, taking that 4th spot. We'll go on to the petite final this afternoon. But what a race between those two Boston schools. Boston College, Boston University. Boston College tried to sprint early and get out ahead, but BU had the answer, and they were able to take that lead back and hold on for the victory and their spot in the grand final. We'll be going up to Heat 2 in a few minutes here. The second heat of the Varsity 8 that will be between Northeastern, MIT, Drexel, and UConn.
And welcome to Race 10, the Varsity 8 Heat 2 for the Women's Eastern Sprints. We have Northeastern in Lane 1, MIT in Lane 2, Drexel in Lane 3, and UConn in Lane 4. Top 2 boats go to the final, and the next 2 go to the petites. This is the Varsity 8 Heat 2. Crews are just getting aligned. They're in their stake boats and just taking their bow seat strokes to get pointed down the course. The wind's picked up just a little bit. A nice cross tail at the moment. And it looks like they have alignment. This tailwind should help the lighter crews by pushing them right down the course. The official is now aligning. And here's the start. All crews are building strong. Bearing their blades quick, pushing the legs down, and sending their boat towards the finish. Dynamic blade work by all 4 boats. It's important that these crews get their blades in and push off, sending their boat, using all they can for this tailwind, taking advantage of the conditions they have here today at Lake Quinnipiac. Now crews are stopping their high strokes. They're now shifting to their base pace here. Nice length from the Northeastern crew. Same with BC. The Dartmouth boat, or the Drexel boat, looks a little bit short at the moment, but now they're lengthening out. Northeastern is up a few seats over Drexel. Drexel and MIT are right with each other. We have Yukon right with Drexel as well. However, it looks like Northeastern will be crossing first, followed by Drexel, MIT, and Yukon.
And coming through the line, this is the women's varsity 8 heat 2. Early leader Northeastern University, followed by Drexel, MIT, and not far behind them Connecticut. A nice tight pack here entering into the second 500. We'll look to see if Northeastern can open their gap and solidify their lead. We've seen some really nice some fast racing this morning out of Drexel, and this is more of the same here as they're holding on to that second position right now over MIT. But it's Northeastern University opening up their lead. Middle of the second 500, we see Coxon sitting on bow ball or so of Drexel, just quite. Coxon sitting on Drexel's bow deck, so they're not quite up one full length, but Drexel continuing to move away from MIT. Our leader here, though, in this heat is the Huskies by about 1 length or so over second place Drexel. Drexel now 2 to 3 seats up MIT, followed by Connecticut, who sits about 1 length down from third. But it's the Huskies in first. Drexel's moving, though. Again, it's top 2 to advance. And right now it's looking like Northeastern and that it's going to be a battle between Drexel and MIT the entire way down. Right now, though, Drexel ahead of MIT by just about a seat. These Coxons are almost even. Huskies long and strong. They'll be the first to move into the third 500. Huskies are up 1 length over second place Drexel. Can they break into open water in the third 5? Right now, cruise control for this Northeastern shell as they think about solidifying their position for this afternoon's grand final. It's a battle for second, and it wouldn't be a good heat if it wasn't. Right now, it's between Drexel and MIT, with an advantage of Drexel over MIT by just about 1 length. Again, these Coxons are neck and neck, bow ball to bow ball, but right now it's Drexel favored by 1 seat, or 2 even, over MIT. Drexel's on the move. Drexel's on the move. Right now, starting to pick up a little bit of speed. MIT answering them. Advantage of Drexel over MIT. The Huskies are out in first place. They've broken into open water now over Drexel. The Huskies looking to get their bow ball to the line first, long and strong, hopefully without too much of a sprint sequence. Right now, MIT, man, really answering Drexel here. MIT won bow ball over Drexel, and the women's varsity 8 heat 2, it's Northeastern open water lead over Drexel and MIT. MIT has taken over for second by about a bow ball. These crews are really close. What an exciting heat between all of these schools. Northeastern hanging on to their open water lead over Drexel and MIT. It's now MIT by a bow ball over Drexel for second. And right now, both of these crews are looking towards the last 500. Who's going to sprint first? If I'm in that shell, I'm thinking about going early. Northeastern open water lead over Drexel. It is now Drexel bow ball over MIT. Eric, over to you. It's Drexel.
All right, here comes our second heat of the varsity.
And into the final quarter of the second heat of the Varsity 8, we have the Huskies of Northeastern maintaining that open water advantage. The story of this race, the Dragons of Drexel, can they hold on to that tiny lead they have over MIT? We've got about a seat here, surging back and forth coming into the last 400. The Dragons and the Yellow Empire, the MIT engineers in the boat that they're rowing, and here they come into 300 meters to go. Huskies looking relaxed. Long rhythm set up by that tall stern pair there in the front of the boat, but can the Dragons hold on, or will MIT engineer their way ahead in this last 250? Let's see what they can do. We saw the Drexel uncork that fiery sprint in the 2V earlier. Let's see if their Varsity 8 can do the same. Those two boats probably piecing each other, probably learned the sprint from each other, but right now it is too close to call between these two boats. Right now it's the battle for who will go on to join the other crews in the grand final this afternoon. Northeastern will be first here. MIT has moved back in, and it appears the second spot will go by about 2 seats to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, followed in third by the Dragons of Drexel, back about a length to the Huskies of Yukon. So that race won by the Northeastern, second MIT, third Drexel, and in fourth Yukon. They will go on to join the Terriers of BU and Radcliffe in this afternoon's final. We have one more heat scheduled for you this morning. It's the third heat of the Varsity 8 going off in a few moments. That'll be between Columbia, Dartmouth, Bucknell, and Rutgers. After that, we'll have a bit of a break. So stay tuned here for the third heat of the Varsity 8 here on Lake Quinsigamond in Worcester, Massachusetts.
And it's 3 minutes to the start for race 11, the Varsity 8 Heat 3. In lane 1 we have Columbia, lane 2 we have Dartmouth, lane 3 Bucknell, and lane 4 Rutgers. This is Heat 3, Varsity 8, the last race of the morning before finals in the afternoon. And top 2 boats will go to the final, and the next 2 will go to the petite. And it's about 3 to 2 minutes towards the race, till the start of the race. The wind has started to die down, but there's still a little bit of a tailwind pushing them down the course today. And again, we have Columbia in lane 1, Dartmouth in lane 2, Bucknell in lane 3, and Rutgers in lane 4. The Dartmouth Bowsies just taking a few strokes to get aligned. The coxswain to get their points straight down the race course. A few from Rutgers, and a few from Bucknell right now. All crews appear to have stopped tapping. And they're off. We have Columbia, Dartmouth, Bucknell, and Rutgers for the Varsity 8 Heat 3. Top 2 are going to the final, and the next 2 are going to the heat, or the petite. Beautiful starts by all boats. Nice and strong. Very direct blade work from that Dartmouth crew right now. And Rutgers really bringing the rate up. Columbia has already started to lengthen their stroke out, with Dartmouth following, and Bucknell still a little high, but starting to lengthen out. Rutgers has lengthened as well to their base pace for the rest of this race. All crews still appear to be very close at the moment. Very little separation. Columbia may have a few seats over but Dartmouth and Bucknell are going bow ball to bow ball. Rutgers is just a few seats down on Bucknell, but all crews in this race are very close. as they approach the 500-meter mark. Beautiful direct blades sending the boat off right through this 500-meter mark.
Okay, got it. Heat 3, the last heat of the who sits in second. Dartmouth, half a length advantage over Bucknell in third, and half a length advantage over Rutgers in fourth. These crews are all a half a length apart right now. But it looks like Dartmouth and Columbia is starting to open up the field a little bit more over Bucknell in third and Rutgers in fourth. Columbia still our leader here in the women's varsity 8 heat 3. It's Columbia over Dartmouth, and it's Columbia over sitting on these margins a little bit as they move into the third 500. Columbia and Dartmouth, though they maintain that half a length positioning or so, moving away from the rest of the field, which means they're pushing back Bucknell and Rutgers, solidifying their positions in 1 and 2 to advance to the grand final this afternoon. I'd say Columbia now and Dartmouth about 2 seats, maybe 3 seats apart from each other. 3 seats or so as we see Columbia Coxon sitting on Dartmouth 6 to 7 seat. But it's Columbia still leading this race. They got out early. They've stayed ahead. Dartmouth, though, sticking right with them as we look toward the last 500 of this piece. Columbia, Dartmouth sitting on these margins right now. It's Columbia about a half a length. Maybe Columbia's moved a little bit over Dartmouth. Yes, they have, by about 1.5 seats. We now see Columbia Coxon sitting in between 7 and 6 seat on Dartmouth Shell. In fact, I'd say Columbia's taking some kind of a move because now she's moving down even further. Columbia definitely on the move. Now about, again, a half a length or so. Columbia maybe even 3/4 of a lead on Dartmouth, but not quite yet. Both of these crews moving into the last 500. It's Columbia, our early leader, who solidified that position. Columbia and Dartmouth, again, this is very similar racing to what we saw in the second varsity 8. Looking like these 2 crews will advance to the grand final this afternoon. Columbia a little bit faster right now than Dartmouth, followed by Rutgers and Bucknell. Over to you, Eric, for the last 5.
City 8. It's Columbia and Dartmouth. Columbia with about a seat over Dartmouth. Dartmouth and Columbia both have moved out over Bucknell and Rutgers. We saw this earlier in the third heat of the second varsity 8 with Dartmouth and Columbia moving out easily and just kind of striding out to the finish line with their final spot in hand. Let's see if that plays out again here as we come into the red buoys, the final 250 meters of this race. It looks like Columbia about a seat over Dartmouth, but Dartmouth may have moved back in here in the last 500. We'll see as they come into the angle, but out in third is Rutgers, and in fourth we have Bucknell. Rutgers with about a length over Bucknell. Here come Columbia and Dartmouth in lockstep in the last 10 strokes. Stroke for stroke, bow ball for bow ball. Columbia moved out about a seat ahead, actually, as we come into the line. Columbia Lions taking the top honors. Dartmouth right next to them, taking spot 2. Rutgers across the line now in 3rd. They'll go on to the Petite Final this afternoon at about 3:30 p.m. And in 4th, we have the Bucknell Bison. For those of you watching there on the YouTube live stream, that will wrap up our morning racing. We'll get back to you started at about 12:30 this afternoon. I believe that will be the grand final of the Lightweight Novice 4. So at 12:30 p.m., we'll be tuning back in for the Lightweight Finals. But as for now, that locks it up for the 1V Grand Final today, this afternoon at 3:40 p.m. We've got Columbia, Dartmouth, Northeastern, MIT, Radcliffe, and I believe taking that last spot was BU. So that's it from now. I'm signing off from Lake Quinsigamond in Worcester, Massachusetts. We'll get back to you at 12:30 p.m. Have a good morning.